So, Eve Welsh. Sorry? Sorry? Oh, sorry. Okay. Mr. Woodham. Apparently some of the others haven't arrived yet, so can't believe we're ahead of time. We're not. We're not ahead of time. I think they're not coming.
Madam Mayor, councillors, thanks for the opportunity for me to present my point of view on a subject that's not very much discussed, but it's the qualification criteria for the lower rural rate, which I'll go through it, but I attended the community board meeting at Sockburn Library on the 14th of April, where some local ratepayers from Yolders addressed the suggested removal of the 25% differential for rural. And it was basically, she gave us a great hearing actually, she was fantastic. Councillor Vicky Buck was told of our concerns and she said, honestly, I didn't know anything about it. It was sort of just one of those things that slipped through. And she gave us a good hearing. Sorry? No, that's right. But the bottom line is...
No, not at all.
You gave us a great hearing on it and sort of said, hey, come along and tell us the story. So we all had a story to tell. So she actually sort of put it in context. The meeting was fantastic and it sort of gave me a bit of a new hope that democracy was alive. That meeting was fantastic for me. I went on a specific area, but the whole meeting was everybody else's concern. And one of the things that I left with, I think the earthquake took hundreds of years to get to us, but we're trying to fix it all up in about 10 or 15 years. And I would suggest we need to spread it out, make it a bit longer. We don't want to bankrupt this generation for the future. So I left that meeting, so it was great. I would acknowledge the openness of the meeting and all issues by Vicky and council staff. There was a guy there that I've been dealing with on this, a guy, Steve Ballard, who's the Funds and Financial Policy Manager. The council could do with heaps more of him. He was honest, his integrity, his transparency, he was fantastic to deal with. And it was just, I've had lots of dealings with other things through the Yolders Residents Association. It was nowhere near as open. And I want to acknowledge the work of that man, he was fantastic. My submission is a sample case study based on my 2.5 hectare farm, which is the basis of the removal of the subsidy. And this is my summation, only one A4, but it's the guts of what I want to say. I believe the suggested change in criteria for the removal of the 25% subsidy on the general rate for my property, 2.5 hectares, is fundamentally flawed. I believe the basis for this change is based on council staff's personal judgment on what farms should qualify for the rebate. No reasoned analysis on land usage, but only council officers' gut feeling. That's from the horse's mouth. To move from my current 2.5 hectare rebate to 5 hectares based on gut feeling is unprofessional, unfair, and indeed an attack on a singled out ratepayer group. Over 36 years, my property has bred, sold and raised 15 thoroughbreds, raised countless ponies and hacks, numerous sheep and cattle, with many cuts of hay. I am indeed a working farm with subdivided paddocks, hay barn and horse bucks to support my farming activities. As an observation, if I had the proposed qualifying 5 hectares to get the rebate, all that would have changed was the amount of hay grown and the stock numbers. The nature of my farm would not have changed one iota. So much for gut feeling to remove my rural subsidy. I'm told this proposal for the council is tax neutral, but in reality you'll be charging the existing smaller rural holdings more to give a reduction to another group of ratepayers. Hardly fair or a professionally researched proposal that is initially based on gut feeling. I strongly suggest, based on the points of my submission, the existing criteria for the rates be retained. Thank you.
Clearly you've described yourself as running a farming operation.
Yep.
The 25% differential was to support farmers. It wasn't because the property was rural, it was for farmers.
Yes.
So if the criteria were simply that you were operating a farm without the other criteria, you'd be quite happy with that?
The reality is, given the nature of breeding horses and all that, by law I can't make a profit off the place because it's not. I'm not allowed to. The size of the holding doesn't preclude me to farm it to take tax losses and that. So really, the reality is, I would argue strongly that shifting from 2.5 to 5 hectares is the basis. Doesn't make any logical sense to me.
Right. But the test for us,
Yep.
It doesn't matter for tax purposes, but the test for us is that we're supporting people who are undertaking farming activities.
Right.
You would qualify under that.
I would suggest I would, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, no, that's great. Thank you very much.
It's just most probably all I'm trying to say. I can't see the point in the criteria from 2.5 to 5.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you for your time.
And it is arbitrary, you're quite right, so...
Is it currently 2.5?
It is current.
It is. But one of the things that I would strongly... they sort of went through this some time back, and they took a photo of the house and the land and my surroundings and said, because I got a nice house and I've spent a whole lifetime actually bringing back the birds, fantails and all that, so I've got a fantastic orchard and all that, I level the fruit on the trees. But because the photos looked lovely and it looked there, they said that didn't qualify you for the rebate. I find that totally illogical. Because I had a nice house, I've had a broken down old bloody shed. And then would that be all right? So I'm just saying as the criteria is the issue.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. Now, has Eve